Jack Nolan stood before the glass door of the boardroom, his heart pounding. Through the transparent pane, he saw a woman with her back turned, dressed in a sleek silver-gray suit, her hair neatly tied up. Her voice carried through the phone, cold, firm, as if she were commanding the entire world. Dana Whitfield, the HR officer, gently pushed the door open and gave a slight nod. "Please, come in, Mr. Nolan." Jack stepped inside. The polished wood and the aroma of premium coffee filled the luxurious room. The woman slowly turned around, and Jack's world seemed to stop spinning. It was her. The very woman he had pulled over to help just 2 days ago on I-95, under the pouring rain, changing the shredded tire of a BMW. The woman whose hands were smeared with grease, whose eyes had been helpless, and who had introduced herself simply as Eve. But on the gleaming nameplate before him now, Jack read, Evelyn Pierce, CEO, Pierce Motors. Not Eve, not a stranger in need of help, but the CEO of the very company he was interviewing for, the most powerful woman he had ever met in his life. Her gaze locked onto him, showing no surprise. Only the faintest smile crossed her face, as if she had been waiting for this very moment. "Hello, Jack," Evelyn spoke softly, yet behind it lay something he couldn't quite grasp. "Thank you for coming. And thank you for that tire the other day." Jack stood frozen, his mouth dry. A flood of questions crashed in his mind. When had she known who he was? Was it all just a performance? Or was this her way of hiring people? Patrick Hale, the man seated next to Evelyn, cleared his throat, reminding them the interview had begun. But Jack understood clearly. The real interview had started 2 days ago. In the relentless rain. On I-95. When he chose to risk his shot at a future. Just to help a stranger. To understand why Jack was standing here, and why that decision changed everything, we need to go back to the beginning. This is the story of a single father living in a run-down trailer park in Tinicum Township, on the outskirts of South Philadelphia. Of a 9-year-old girl named Mia, the only light in his life, and of a choice most men would call foolish. But Jack's father once told him, "Son, sometimes what the world calls foolish is exactly what makes you a real man." And Jack was about to prove him right. If you want to know how that foolish decision opened new doors, hit subscribe so you don't miss this journey. And the question remains, can one small act on the side of a highway change a man's entire life, or even the fate of a giant corporation? Monday morning, 7:15 a.m., in the trailer park at Tinicum Township. The alarm clock had been blaring since 6, but Jack Nolan hadn't been able to sleep for a long time. He lay still, eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting the familiar cracks he had memorized over the past 3 years since the day Sarah was gone. On the small table beside the bed, the wedding photo in a simple wooden frame still stood there. Jack and Sarah in front of City Hall. She in an old white dress bought from a second-hand shop, her smile shining as if they were holding the whole world in their hands. Next to the photo sat a pile of bills. Jack didn't even need to open them. He knew each number by heart. $4,200 in unpaid hospital fees, $380 for utilities, $95 in credit card late fees. And today, the interview at Pierce Motors was his last chance to break free from that vicious cycle. "Daddy?" Mia's gentle voice came from the next room. The 9-year-old girl, with her mother's blue eyes, always looked wiser than her age. "Up already, Angel." Jack forced a smile, setting his feet on the icy floor. "Did you sleep well?" Mia stood at the doorway, clutching the old teddy bear, the last gift from her mother before she passed. "I dreamed of Mommy," Jack's heart ached. 3 years had passed, yet the pain never dulled. "What did Mommy say to you?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "She said, 'Daddy will be fine.'" She said I shouldn't worry. Mia sat beside him, her bright eyes shimmering. "Today's the interview, right, Daddy?" Jack nodded, brushing her hair. "That's right. At Pierce Motors. If I get the job, we'll have a real house?" Mia's voice was filled with hope, but hesitant, as if too much hope might shatter it. Jack smiled, promising, "Then I'll get you piano lessons, just like you always dreamed of." But the moment he said it, guilt struck him. It was a promise even he wasn't sure he could keep. By 7:35, in the small kitchen, Jack stood before the nearly empty fridge, a carton of milk close to expiry, a few slices of bread, a jar of strawberry jam. He made a sandwich for Mia, carefully cutting it into a heart shape, a habit from the days when Sarah was still there. "Daddy, why aren't you eating?" Mia noticed he only poured himself a cup of black coffee. "I'm full, honey." Jack smiled, though the truth was he had to save every bit. If today's interview failed, they'd have to survive the whole week on the $43 left in his wallet. He sat watching his daughter eat, each small bite slow, as if to prolong breakfast. Her hoodie was faded, her sneakers too tight, but Mia never complained. "Sweetheart," Jack said softly, "if I get the job, the first thing I'll do is buy you a new pair of shoes." Mia shook her head, smiling gently. "I don't need new shoes, Daddy. I just need you to come home earlier." The words cut through Jack like a knife. For months, he had worked from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Quinn's Auto and Diesel. Mia stayed home alone, teaching herself, eating by herself, putting herself to sleep. No 9-year-old should have to grow up that fast. Around 7:50, before the cracked bathroom mirror, Jack struggled with an old tie bought from Goodwill for $3. The yellow stain near the edge wouldn't come out, no matter how many times he tried. "Let me help." Mia dragged a small chair over, tiptoeing to knot the tie for him. She had learned from a YouTube video the week before, practicing on her teddy bear. "You're amazing." Jack smiled, his eyes misty as he watched his daughter's serious face. "Daddy's going to get the job," Mia declared firmly, "because Daddy is the best." Jack hugged her tightly, inhaling the scent of cheap shampoo in her hair. "I love you so much, Mia. You know that, right?" "I know. And Mommy loves you too. She's watching over you from heaven." At 8:05, Jack walked Mia to the school bus stop. The other kids wore new clothes, colorful backpacks, chattering and laughing. Mia stood quietly with her old backpack, patched by Jack 3 times already. "If anything happens, Miss Debbie at number 12 will pick you up. I already asked her." "No need, Daddy. I'm 9 already." Mia smiled, her eyes steady. "Just focus on the interview. And Daddy?" She paused, looking straight at him. "No matter what, I'm proud of you. Mommy is too." The bus arrived. Mia climbed on and waved until she disappeared around the corner. Jack stood for another minute, swallowing the lump in his throat. By 8:20, Jack's 1998 Ford F-150 merged onto I-95. The engine rattled, the old wipers smearing streaks across the windshield. Heavy rain pounded down, each drop as if testing the last of his patience. He glanced at the clock. 8:32. The interview was at 9. If traffic stayed clear, he would make it. As long as... Nothing unexpected happened. The radio reported record-high gas prices and Philadelphia's unemployment hitting alarming levels. Jack switched it off immediately. He didn't need more reminders. Inside his jacket, he touched the printed job application he had read 10 times, next to a small photo of Mia, carefully wrapped in a plastic sleeve. "Dad," Jack whispered, thinking of the father who had died when he was 19. "If you're watching me, please give me a miracle today." The rain poured harder, visibility just a few meters. And then, through the misty downpour, Jack saw it. A black BMW on the roadside, hazard lights flashing. The front tire was blown out, the car tilting to one side. A woman stood there, hair soaked, fumbling with the trunk. The clock, 8:41. Jack looked at her, looked back at the clock, then at the road ahead. Inside, two voices clashed fiercely. "Keep driving. She's got money, she's insured, she'll be fine. But you're your father's son. And what did he teach you?" A memory surged back. Jack was 12, annoyed when his dad stopped to help an old man with a broken bicycle. Jack had pleaded, "We'll miss the game." But his father only gave him a stern look. "Some things matter more than football, son. You can have all the success in the world, but if you pass by someone in need and don't stop, you've lost the most important part of yourself." "But what if we're late?" "Then it's an opportunity not worth having. People may forget what you say, forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." 30 seconds passed. Jack sighed, flicked on the blinker, and pulled over. He cut the engine, sitting still, gripping the steering wheel tightly. "Sorry, Mia," he whispered. "I might be late." Then Jack opened the door, stepping out into Philly's cold rain, heading toward the stranger who needed help. Never knowing this decision would change his entire life. Around 8:43 a.m., roadside of I-95 through South Philly. Rain pelted Jack's shoulders like tiny stones. He pulled his hood up, clutching tightly his father's old toolbox, the only thing left from the man who had taught him everything about fixing cars and about being a man. Hearing footsteps, the woman turned around. She looked to be in her 30s, long brown hair soaked, expensive jeans, and a cashmere coat now stained with mud. But what struck Jack most was her eyes, fearful yet exhausted, the look of someone who had fought too long against something beyond her control. "Car trouble!" Jack had to shout above the rain. "The tire!" She pointed at the shredded front wheel. "I was driving and suddenly lost control. Lucky I didn't hit anyone." Jack bent down to check. It wasn't just a puncture. The tire was ripped, as if slashed by something sharp. The rim bent. This wasn't the kind of problem AAA could fix quickly. "Did you call roadside assistance?" "Yes. They said at least 2 hours. There's a pileup ahead." Her voice trembled, unclear if from cold or fear. "And I have an extremely important meeting at 9. If I don't make it—" She bit her lip, leaving the rest unsaid. Jack recognized that look, the look of someone standing at the edge of a cliff, the same he had seen in the mirror every morning. He glanced at his watch. 8:46. If he stopped, he would definitely be late. No more chances. But then his father's voice rang in his head. "The kind of man you want to be, Jack." "Let me check if there's a spare," he said. Decision already made. Around 8:48, at the BMW's trunk. She opened the trunk, everything neatly arranged, an expensive briefcase, a shoebox with heels, and a tire-changing kit still sealed. Never once opened. I don't know how to use it," she admitted, cheeks flushing. "It sounds stupid, but I've never changed a tire myself." "It's not stupid." Jack pulled out the kit. "Plenty of people don't." He knelt on the freezing asphalt, opening his father's toolbox. The familiar scent of old metal and oil rushed back. The smell of childhood, of a small garage, of rough hands guiding his own to turn each wrench size. Jack placed the jack, loosened each bolt, his muscles moving with 20 years of memory. "You make it look so easy," she said, tilting her umbrella toward him, though she herself was drenched. Everything's easy if you've done it enough. Jack gave a faint smile. My father used to say, there's no problem you can't solve, so long as you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. Your father sounds wonderful. He was the best man I ever knew. Jack's hands faltered for a second, eyes distant. He died when I was 19. Accident in the garage. Sometimes I still hear him telling me how to hold a wrench, how to listen to an engine. The air grew heavy. She stayed quiet beside him, only the rain and the roar of cars spraying water filling the silence. Jack kept working. By 9:02, the last bolt was tightened. The spare tire was on, not perfect, but safe enough to reach the nearest garage. All done. Jack stood, soaked as if pulled from a river, mud and grease smeared all over. His interview suit now looked as bad as a beggar's clothes. My God, I don't know how to thank you. She opened her purse, pulling out her wallet. How much? Jack shook his head. No need. But you've saved me. And look at your clothes. She hesitated, glancing at his ruined suit. You had something important, didn't you? Jack gave a weary smile. Yes, an interview. It was supposed to start 2 minutes ago. Her face paled. Oh, no? Because of me? It's fine. Jack forced a smile, though inside he was breaking. I chose to stop. No one forced me. But that job, it mattered to you, didn't it? Jack paused a moment, staring at his grease-covered hands. It mattered a lot. But my father taught me, when someone needs help, you do it, even if there's a price. If I left you here just to keep my appointment, I wouldn't be myself anymore. She looked at him, eyes glistening. Not many people think like you. Maybe. But that's how my father taught me, and it's how I want my daughter to see me. You have a daughter? For the first time that morning, Jack smiled genuinely. 9 years old. Her name's Mia. She's the reason I get up every day. She nodded, as if touched by something deeper. Then she held out her hand. I'm Eve. Thank you, Mr. Jack. Jack Nolan. They shook hands. Her hand was soft, but her grip firm. Jack Nolan, she repeated, as if engraving it in memory. Your interview. Where is it? Pierce Motors, production manager position. Jack shrugged. But it's probably over now. Something flickered across her face. An emotion Jack couldn't quite read. Surprise or recognition? Pierce Motors, she echoed, voice slightly odd. How long have you prepared? 3 months. Sent applications everywhere. This was the first callback, and you missed it because of me. I chose to help you, Jack corrected. That was my decision. She stood in the rain, gazing at him as though trying to see past his guard. If I asked whether you regret it, what would you say? Jack thought of Mia, of the pile of bills, of the cold trailer, of the fragile future. Then he thought of his father, of the values, of the example he wanted Mia to be proud of. No. His answer surprised even himself with its relief. Maybe I'll pay the price, but at least tonight, I'll sleep easy. A smile flickered on her lips, sad yet full of respect. You're a rare man, Jack Nolan. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. She got into her car. Before closing the door, she turned back. That interview at Pierce Motors. Don't give up. Sometimes things happen for a reason. What do you mean? You'll see. She smiled, mysterious. And Jack? Some things are worth more than money. But there are also people who know how to repay kindness. Before Jack could ask, the door shut. The black BMW sped off, taillights fading in the rain. He stood frozen, drenched and ragged, checking his watch. 9:14. Too late. Around 9:35, on the way back to Quinn's Auto and Diesel. Jack drove in silence. The wipers worked tirelessly, counting down the seconds of the chance he'd lost. He opened his phone. One missed call from Pierce Motors HR at 9:07. He didn't call back. What was the point? To apologize? To explain he had stopped to help a stranger? Who would believe such a story that sounded absurd? His phone buzzed. A text from Ms. Debbie, the neighbor. "Mia's home safe. She asked if there's any news. I told her not yet. She said she'll wait for you at home." Jack sighed. How could he look into her eyes and say, "Daddy failed again"? He pulled into Quinn's Auto and Diesel, a small garage with a rusted sign, the smell of oil, the clang of metal. For 3 years, this had been his place. $15 an hour, enough to survive, never enough to escape the loop of poverty. Mr. Quinn, a gaunt man in his 60s, salt and pepper beard, looked up as Jack walked in, frowning. "Nolan? Thought you took today off for an interview?" "I did." Jack peeled off his wet coat, pulling on his old work blouse. "Didn't make it." "Late?" "Stopped to help someone with a flat." Quinn stared at him as if he'd said he came from Mars. "You gave up the biggest interview of your life. To help a stranger?" Jack nodded. There was nothing more to explain. Quinn shook his head, not angry, just weighed down with a sad kind of understanding. "You're so much like your father. He used to do crazy things like that too. And look how he ended up. He ended with everyone's respect," Jack said quietly. "But dead young, leaving nothing but debt," Quinn sighed. "I'm not saying being good is wrong, Jack. But in this world, good men rarely cross the finish line." Jack didn't argue, because part of him believed that too. He stepped into the workshop, hand already reaching for a wrench, bracing for another long day under the hood. But in his mind, the woman named Eve kept appearing, along with her words, "Don't give up." Sometimes things happen for a reason. Around 3:45 p.m. at Quinn's Auto and Diesel, Jack lay beneath a 2008 Chevy Tahoe, sweat beading even though it was still cold outside. He was replacing the suspension, a 3-hour job for $180, of which his share was $45. From the office, the radio drifted out. "Pierce Motors announces a new parts supply contract worth $50 million. CEO Evelyn Pierce states the company is expanding." Jack's hands paused. Evelyn Pierce, CEO of Pierce Motors. The woman he should have met that morning. He briefly wondered whether she was the cold, profit-only type of leader, or someone who genuinely cared about workers. Then he brushed it aside, no use thinking about it. The chance had slipped away. "Nolan!" "Phone," Quinn called from outside. Jack slid out and wiped his hands on an oil-stained rag. "Who is it?" "Not sure." A woman's voice. "Sounds important." His heart sped up. He hurried into the office and picked up, "Jack Nolan speaking." "Mr. Nolan, this is Dana Whitfield from Human Resources at Pierce Motors." A professional, courteous female voice. "We noted that you didn't make it to the interview this morning." Jack swallowed. "Yes, I'm sorry. I was delayed because—" "A flat," Dana gently cut in. "We understand. These things can happen. We'd like to know if you're still interested in the position." Jack froze, unable to believe his ears. Yes, very interested." "Good. We'd like to reschedule the interview tomorrow, 9 a.m. Can you make that?" "Yes, absolutely," Jack nearly blurted, making Quinn glance over in surprise. "Wonderful. We'll send a confirmation email in a few minutes. Please don't be late this time, Mr. Nolan." "No, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much." The call ended. Jack stood there gripping the phone, eyes wide as if he hardly dared to believe it. "What happened?" Quinn asked. "They gave me another interview. Tomorrow." Quinn scratched his head. "Strange. Pierce Motors isn't exactly known for second chances." "Doesn't matter," Jack beamed. "What matters is I've got another shot." But in his mind, one question kept echoing. Why? Why would they give him another try? By 6:30 p.m., at the Tinicum Township Trailer Park, Jack pushed the door open, body exhausted, but heart far lighter than in the morning. Mia sat at the kitchen table doing math, looking up with eyes both hopeful and cautious. "Daddy?" "Daddy's home, sweetheart." "The interview, how did it go?" Jack sat beside her, gently smoothing her hair. "Daddy didn't make it this morning." Mia's face paled slightly. "Why? Is that?" "Daddy stopped to help someone with a flat on the road." She looked at him, silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Mom used to say, Daddy would give away his last dollar to help a stranger." "Are you mad at Daddy?" Mia shook her head hard. "No. Mom also said that's why she loved Daddy, because Daddy always did the right thing, even when it was hard." Jack hugged her, eyes stinging. 9 years old, and she understood him better than many adults. "But hey, Daddy's got good news." He leaned back, smiling. Mia's eyes lit up at once. "They called Daddy. Gave Daddy another interview." Tomorrow Mia squealed softly and threw her arms around his neck. "Really, Daddy? Really? Really? This time Daddy won't miss it." Daddy promises dinner was only pasta with canned tomato sauce, but there was more laughter than the whole week combined. Mia talked about school, an essay she got an A on, and how she helped a friend with math. "You're just like Daddy," Jack said. "How do you know?" "Because you like helping people, too." Mia smiled. "I learned it from Daddy." When Mia went to bed, Jack sat under the dim yellow light at the small kitchen table. He opened the old laptop, a gift from a charity, reading the confirmation email from Pierce Motors. "Dear Mr. Nolan, we are pleased to schedule an interview with you at 9 a.m. tomorrow at Pierce Motors headquarters. You will meet Ms. Dana Whitfield and Mr. Patrick Hale, Chief Operating Officer. We look forward to seeing you. Sincerely, Pierce Motors Human Resources Department." He read it over and over. Something still nagged at him. Big companies rarely gave second chances, especially to a South Philly mechanic without a college degree. But he decided to set that thought aside. This was an opportunity, and he wouldn't waste it. Jack carefully hand-washed his only tie, then pressed his suit, trying to drive out the oil smell that had soaked into the fabric. Before bed, he looked up at the wedding photo on the table. Sarah beaming, arms tight around him. "Hey, honey," he whispered. "If you're out there watching me, help me, okay? I need some luck for tomorrow." For Mia. As if in reply, a light breeze slipped through the cracked window, and the curtain gently swayed. Jack smiled faintly, turned off the light, and tried to coax himself to sleep. The next morning, 7 a.m., Jack woke before the alarm. Lying in bed, he rehearsed interview questions. Why do you want to work at Pierce Motors? What is your greatest strength? Tell us about a time you had to face difficulty. He had answers for all of them, but the worry still lingered. Would they see only a poor mechanic? Someone who didn't belong in that gleaming corporate world? "Daddy, are you up?" Mia stood at the door, her hair soft and tousled. "I'm up, sweetheart. I repressed your tie. I woke up last night and saw it was still wrinkled, so I pressed it again." Jack looked down at the table. The tie lay crisp and neat. "You did that? In the middle of the night?" Mia nodded. I want Daddy to look really sharp. He hugged her, swallowing hard. You're the best thing that ever happened to Daddy, Mia. They had toast and strawberry jam for breakfast. Simple, but warm. No matter what happens today, I'm proud of you, Mia said seriously. Mom is too. Jack nodded, unsure he could say anything more. 8:10 a.m. on the way to Pierce Motors. Clear skies, no rain, no obstacles. Jack drove carefully, stayed within the speed limit, and built in time for anything unexpected. At 8:45, he parked in front of a 6-story glass building glittering in the morning sun, a world entirely different from Quinn's auto and diesel. He sat in the car for a few more minutes, inhaling deeply. You can do this. For Mia. For Sarah. For Dad. He stepped out, suit freshly pressed, wearing the tie Mia had fussed over. In his breast pocket, Mia's small photo, his good luck charm, rested snugly. The glass doors slid open. A lobby of gleaming marble, high ceilings, lush green planters. The scent of fine wood and premium coffee drifted lightly. The receptionist, a young woman in a navy suit, smiled professionally. Good morning. How can I help you? I'm Jack Nolan. I have a 9 a.m. interview. She checked the screen. Yes, Mr. Nolan. Ms. Whitfield will be right down. Please have a seat. Jack sat on a soft leather sofa, softer than anything he'd ever sat on. He looked up. Art on the walls, a digital board updating achievements, employees striding confidently with iPads and expensive coffee cups. He felt like a fish out of water. Mr. Nolan? He looked up. A woman in her early 40s, blonde hair neatly tied, gray suit, a warm yet polished smile. I'm Dana Whitfield. Nice to meet you. Jack stood to shake hands, his palm slightly damp. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Not at all. Sometimes life has its surprises, Dana said, though her tone seemed to hide something, as if she knew more than she was saying. Please, follow me. They walked down a long hallway, glass walls looking into an open space. Employees at large monitors, online meetings, whiteboards crammed with diagrams. Pierce Motors has 800 employees here and 2,000 at the Camden plant, Dana explained. We manufacture high-precision engine components for automakers nationwide. I know, Jack replied. I've done my research. Ms. Pierce took the company from the brink of bankruptcy to number 3 in the industry in 5 years. Dana looked at him, surprised in a good way. You've prepared well. I want them to see I'm serious. They stopped before a large boardroom. Glass walls, a glossy long table, a massive TV screen. Please go in. Mr. Hale will see you in a few minutes. Jack stepped inside, heart pounding like a drum. He sat and placed his hands on his thighs to steady their tremble. The door opened. A man in his 50s with graying hair walked in, with Dana behind him. And then, Jack's heart seemed to stop. The woman who entered was no stranger. Eve, the one he had helped on I-95. But now she wore a sleek silver-gray suit, hair neatly up, high heels, radiating unmistakable power. On the nameplate on the table, the letters shone clear. Evelyn Pierce, CEO, Pierce Motors. Jack's world tilted. Eve was Evelyn Pierce, the CEO. The woman he had helped was the very person who would decide his future. Evelyn looked at him, a smile that was part apology, part curiosity. Hello, Jack, she said, her voice gentle. Thank you for coming. And thank you for the tire the other day. Jack opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Around 9:05 a.m. in the Pierce Motors boardroom. The air felt thick. Jack looked at Evelyn Pierce, the woman he had once called Eve, standing there with a CEO's confidence, yet in her eyes flickered something more complex. Guilt or calculation? Patrick Hale, the tall man who had just walked in, glanced between the two, clearly sensing the taut thread pulling at the whole room. You know each other?" he asked. "You could say that," Evelyn replied calmly. "Mr. Nolan did me an important favor 2 days ago." Jack still stood there, his mind spinning. 1,000 questions collided in his head. Had she known who he was from the start? Was this a test, or just coincidence? "Mr. Nolan," Dana Whitfield gently prompted, her voice even, "please, have a seat." Jack slowly sat, both hands resting on the icy tabletop. He tried to steady himself, but his heart was pounding as if it would burst from his chest. Evelyn sat across from him, Patrick on the right, Dana on the left, like a tribunal. "Jack," Evelyn began, her voice softer than over the phone, "I know you have many questions, and you deserve answers. When did you know who I was?" Jack asked, his voice still shaking. Evelyn exhaled, placing her hands on the table. "I didn't. When you pulled over to help me on I-95, I truly didn't know who you were. In that moment, I was just a woman stranded in the rain, about to be late for a critical board meeting. But afterward? Afterward, when you said you were on your way to interview at Pierce Motors." Evelyn paused, choosing her words. "I looked up your name. I read your file, and I realized I had inadvertently made you miss a big opportunity. So you rescheduled my interview. Because you felt guilty?" Jack blurted, more bitter than he intended. "No," Evelyn shook her head firmly. "I gave you a second chance because I wanted to meet the man who chose to help a stranger instead of protecting his own future. People like that are rare, and exactly the kind of people this company needs." Patrick interjected, cautious. "Mr. Nolan, I've reviewed your file. You don't have a college degree, and you don't have formal management experience, but you do have 15 years of hands-on mechanical work. 3 years at Quinn's Auto and Diesel, always punctual, with no complaints." Jack gave a small nod, unsure how to respond. "But what caught Mrs. Pierce's attention," Patrick continued, "was what Mr. Quinn, the shop owner, said about you when we called to verify." Jack stiffened. "You called Mr. Quinn?" "Yes." Dana opened her iPad and read. "He said, 'Jack Nolan is the best mechanic I've ever seen. But more importantly, he's the best person I've ever hired. He helps coworkers, stays late when needed, never complains. If I had a bigger company, I'd never let him go.'" Jack's eyes burned. Mr. Quinn had never said those words in front of him. "So," Jack swallowed, "this interview is real? Not because of guilt?" Evelyn looked straight into his eyes. "Jack, if I wanted to repay you, I would have written you a check. But I didn't. Because what you did on I-95 says more about who you are than any diploma ever could." "And character can't be taught," Patrick added. "Management skills can be trained. Processes can be learned. But integrity, loyalty, and kindness cannot." Jack felt something melting in his chest. The armor, the doubt. But the fear was still there. "I'm not sure I'm good enough," he admitted, voice hoarse. "I'm just a mechanic from a trailer park. I don't know how to run a plant, manage hundreds of people." "But you know how to fix machines," Evelyn replied. "You know how to listen to problems. And most importantly, you know how to treat people like people, not cells on a spreadsheet." She paused, her gaze softening. "My father, the founder of Pierce Motors, used to say, 'A company isn't built by machines. It's built by people.' He passed away 3 months ago. Before he died, he worried I was losing his vision, that I was letting the board turn Pierce Motors into a profit-optimizing machine instead of a place people were proud to work. Evelyn's voice trembled slightly. For the first time, Jack saw the CEO veneer crack. That morning, on my way to a meeting to approve cutting 150 jobs to boost margins, my tire blew. I stood in the rain, helpless. For the first time in years, I wasn't Pierce's CEO, I was just a woman who needed help. She looked at Jack. And then you appeared. A stranger, headed toward the most important thing in his life. But you still stopped. Not because you knew who I was. Not for a trade. Simply because your father taught you that helping is the right thing to do. Evelyn lowered her head and gently dabbed at the corner of her eye. While you were fixing the tire, you talked about your father. How he taught you. How you lost him, but still lived by the values he left you. And I realized that's exactly what my father wanted me to look for at Pierce Motors. Not the best person on paper, but the person with the right heart. The boardroom fell silent. Patrick and Dana stared at Evelyn in surprise, clearly not the sort of statement their CEO gave every day. Jack sat motionless, his emotions hard to name, part moved, part still wary. "Why didn't you tell me the truth from the start?" he asked. "Why hide your identity?" Evelyn sighed. "Because I wanted to know who you were when you didn't know who I was. I live in a world where everyone wants something from me. Contracts, promotions, influence. I can't remember the last time someone treated me like a regular person. But you did, and I needed to know that was real." Jack looked into those tired, lonely eyes, a loneliness he knew too well. "I'm sorry I wasn't straightforward," Evelyn said sincerely. "If that makes it hard for you to trust me, I understand. But I hope you'll give me a chance to prove this offer is real. I'm looking for a leader, not just an employee, and I believe you can be that person." Jack looked down at his calloused, scarred hands, the hands of his father, of the workers he toiled alongside. "If I accept," he said slowly, "I have 2 conditions." Evelyn nodded. "Name them." "First, I need 2 weeks to train a replacement at Quinn's. Mr. Quinn gave me a job when no one else would. I can't just leave him." Patrick glanced at Evelyn, waiting on a decision. She smiled. "Agreed. That shows loyalty. And the second?" Jack drew a deep breath. "I want to invite you to dinner at my home. With my daughter, Mia. No fancy restaurant, no business talk, just a simple dinner in the trailer. If I'm going to work for you, my daughter needs to know who you are. And you need to understand the real life of people like us." Patrick's mouth fell open. Dana froze. "And Evelyn?" She smiled, a real, warm smile. "I'd be honored," she said. "When would you like? This Friday? I'll make it happen." Patrick cleared his throat. Mrs. Pierce, you have an investor meeting in Boston Friday night." "Reschedule," Evelyn said, without taking her eyes off Jack. "Or Patrick, you take it from me. I have plans." Friday night, Jack stood and extended his hand. "Then, we have a deal." Evelyn rose and took his hand, not as someone needing help and someone helping, but as 2 people respecting each other. "We have a deal, Jack Nolan. 12:30 p.m. Pierce Motors parking lot." Jack walked toward his old Ford F-150, out of place among the gleaming rows of BMWs and Mercedes. He slid into the seat, his hands trembling as they closed around his phone. He needed to tell someone. He needed to share this good news. But not Mia. Not yet. He wanted to make sure everything was set in motion before planting hope in her. He dialed the one number he should call. "Quinn's Auto, speaking." Mr. Quinn's voice came on. "Mr. Quinn, it's me." "Nolan? Why aren't you back at work?" Something wrong? Sir, Jack swallowed. I think I just got hired at Pierce Motors. Silence on the line for a beat. Mr. Quinn? I heard you. The old man's voice thickened. Congratulations, Jack. You deserve it. Your father would be proud, but I need 2 weeks to train someone to replace me. I can't leave you like this. Mr. Quinn chuckled, both sad and pleased. You're a fool, Nolan. But a good one. Fine. 2 weeks. Then go, and don't come back. I don't want to watch you waste your talent in this tiny garage. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me. Prove to them that Tom Nolan's boy isn't ordinary. Jack hung up and leaned back against the seat. Then he turned on the radio, started the engine, and headed toward South Philly. Back to Mia. Toward a future no longer saturated with darkness. 3:30 p.m. The gate of Mia's elementary school. Jack waited, something he hadn't managed in 3 years, because he was always stuck at the shop. The bell rang, children poured out in a chatter. And then he saw her, Mia with the old backpack and tight shoes, but a radiant smile when she spotted him. Daddy! She flew into his arms. How come you're here today? Daddy got off early. How was the interview? Jack crouched to her eye level, looking into her blue eyes, Sarah's eyes. Sweetheart, I think we're about to have a new beginning. Mia's eyes widened. Does that mean? It means maybe, just maybe, one day we'll have a real home. You'll have shoes that fit. And maybe you'll learn piano. Mia hugged him tight, sobbing into his shoulder. Mom knows, she whispered. In my dream, she told me. She said Daddy would be okay. Jack held her, unable to stop his tears. The two of them stood there, in the bustle of the schoolyard, under the late afternoon sun. After 3 years of fog, a streak of light had finally cut through the sky. Friday, 6 p.m., at the Tinicum Township Trailer Park. Jack stood before the small stove, sweat beading on his brow. Not from heat, but from nerves. On the table were the dishes he had painstakingly prepared all afternoon. Roast chicken with homemade honey sauce, mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables, and an apple pie. The only recipe Sarah had ever taught him. Not fancy, but sincere. Daddy, it looks beautiful, Mia clapped, wearing her nicest floral dress, slightly tight, but still presentable. She had spent the whole afternoon tidying the house, wiping every corner, stacking her books neatly. Do you think she'll like it? Jack asked, his voice fluttering. Daddy, Mia took his hand, serious. If she's really as kind as you say, she won't care where we live. She'll care who we are, a 9-year-old child, but thoughts as mature as an adult. At exactly 6:30, a car pulled up outside. Not a glossy BMW, but a navy blue Honda Accord. Ordinary. The door opened, and Evelyn Pierce stepped out. Jack almost didn't recognize her. No power suit, no high heels. Instead, jeans, a gray sweater, hair down naturally. In her hands were a bottle of wine and a box of chocolates. Hello, Jack. She smiled, a bit hesitant, like someone stepping into unfamiliar territory. Hello. Evelyn? Jack replied, feeling strange to use her name instead of her title. Please, come in. Evelyn stepped into the small trailer. Her gaze swept around, not scrutinizing, but genuinely curious. A small living room, a patched old sofa, an old TV, but everything was clean and tidy. Photos on the wall, Jack and Sarah on their wedding day, newborn Mia, a family snapshot from a picnic. Your home is lovely, Evelyn said, so sincerely that Jack believed her at once. Mrs. Pierce, Mia ran out, then stopped at a respectful distance. Evelyn knelt to Mia's eye level. Hello, Mia. You can just call me Evelyn, Mrs. Evelyn, Mia corrected, still keeping her manners. "Thank you for giving Daddy a job." Evelyn smiled warmly. "No, I should thank you." "Because you have such a wonderful dad." Mia grinned and tugged Evelyn's hand. "Do you want to see the garden? Daddy and I grew tomatoes and beans." Jack started to stop her, afraid Evelyn might feel awkward. But she had already let Mia lead her out back. 6:45, in the small backyard garden behind the trailer. A narrow strip of earth Jack had dug up for planting, a bean trellis tied with bamboo he had lashed together himself, tomato plants bearing fruit, a few neat rows of greens. "Daddy says we grow plants to remember that everything needs time to grow," Mia explained in a grown-up tone. "Like dreams. You can't rush them." Evelyn looked at the young plants. "You're right. The best things all take time." "Mom said that too," Mia said softly. "Before she died." Evelyn paused. "You miss your mom a lot, don't you?" Mia nodded. "Every day. But Daddy says Mom is still with me, in my heart. Sometimes I can feel it." "I'm sure your mom is very proud of you," Evelyn replied, her voice going hoarse. "Mrs. Evelyn." Mia looked up, eyes solemn. "You lost someone too, didn't you?" Evelyn was surprised. "How did you know?" "Because of your eyes. When you looked at the photos in the house, your eyes were like Daddy's when he looks at Mom's picture. Like you're remembering someone." Evelyn knelt down, a tear slipping quickly. "My father. 3 months ago. You're very perceptive." "Then we're the same," Mia said simply. "We both know what it's like to lose someone. But we keep trying to go on, right?" Evelyn hugged the little girl, a sudden but sincere embrace. Mia hugged her back, small and warm. Jack stood at the back door, watching, his heart brimming. 7:15, around the small dining table that barely fit 3 people. The tabletop tilted slightly, but a clean cloth had been spread over it. In the center, a vase of wildflowers Mia had hastily picked. "This smells amazing," Evelyn exclaimed after the first bite of chicken, and Jack knew she wasn't just being polite. "It's my mom's recipe," Mia said proudly. "Daddy learned it from her. Mom said the best dishes are the ones made with love." "That's true," Evelyn smiled. They ate in a pleasant quiet, not awkward, but the peace of people who cherish the moment. Then Mia asked bluntly, "Mrs. Evelyn, do you have children?" Evelyn set down her fork, a brief sadness in her eyes. "No, I don't." "Do you want them?" "Mia," Jack gently cautioned. "It's okay," Evelyn shook her head. "I used to. But life didn't go as planned. I spent too much time on my career and realized I'd missed more important things." "Like family?" Mia asked. "Yes, like family," Mia pondered. "You can still have a family. It doesn't have to be your own children. Sometimes family is the people you choose." Evelyn looked at Mia, then at Jack, her eyes glistening. "You're wiser than many adults I've met." 8:30 p.m. after dinner. Mia had gone to bed, after hugging Evelyn and whispering, "Thank you for coming. Daddy's happier when you're here." Only Jack and Evelyn remained, sitting on the stoop, looking up as stars slowly pricked the Philadelphia sky. "Thank you for inviting me," Evelyn said softly. "This is the best dinner I've had in years. It's just simple food." "It's not the food, Jack. It's the feeling. The feeling of being in a place where people truly care about each other, not for gain or status, but because they're family." Jack nodded. "I understand. After Sarah died, I felt empty. But Mia, she pulled me back, reminded me every day why I have to keep going. She's special," Evelyn said, "like her father." Silence for another beat. Evelyn drew a deep breath. "Jack, I need to say this. The real reason I wanted you at Pierce Motors, Jack turned to her. "When my father died," she said, voice trembling, "he left a successful company and a letter. In it, he said he was disappointed by the way I was running things, that I had forgotten the core values, respect for people, treating employees like family, not sacrificing ethics for profit." She quickly dabbed at the corner of her eye. He wrote, "There will come a day when you realize success means nothing if you can't recognize yourself in the mirror. Find the people who remind you what truly matters. When you find them, don't let them go." Evelyn looked straight at Jack. "The day you stopped to help me on I-95, knowing you'd miss the biggest chance of your life, I realized you are exactly the kind of person my father meant, someone who keeps his values when everyone else is losing theirs." Jack couldn't find words. "That's why I don't just want you working for me," Evelyn continued. "I want you to help me rebuild Pierce Motors the way my father hoped, a place where people are respected, where those like you, skilled, principled, even without degrees or connections, still have the chance to rise." "And the board?" Jack hesitated. "They'll oppose it," Evelyn nodded. "They want maximum profit, slashed costs, people replaced by machines. But I hold 51% of the shares, and I've decided I'll do it my father's way, not theirs." She grew solemn. "But I can't do it alone. I need people to stand beside me, people who understand that humans aren't costs to cut, but assets to invest in." Jack looked at the star-sprinkled sky, thought of his father, of Quinn, of the workers he'd labored beside, skilled hands so rarely recognized. "All right," he said, "I'll help you. Not because you're the CEO, but because you're trying to do the right thing. And that I can support." Evelyn smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "Thank you, Jack. My father would have liked you very much, and my father would have liked you," Jack replied. They sat a while longer, quiet, peaceful like old friends. Then Evelyn stood. "I should go. Thank you for a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming. And for seeing us." "Jack," Evelyn said, her voice earnest, "ever since that day on I-95, I've seen you. For the man who deserves more than life has given him. It's time to change that." The Honda backed out of the spot. Jack watched the taillights fade, then looked up at the sky. "You see that?" he whispered to his father. "I kept my word. I'm still the man you taught me to be." A light breeze drifted by, cool against his skin. For the first time in 3 years, Jack felt as if Sarah were smiling at him from somewhere. Monday, 7 a.m., at Quinn's Auto and Diesel. The next 2 weeks passed like a hazy dream, caught between past and future, between the man Jack had been and the man he was about to become. Each morning, he still woke in the small trailer, still brewed a cup of cheap coffee, still walked Mia to the school bus stop. But now, there was something light inside him, a hope he hadn't dared to touch for the past 3 years. At Quinn's, Jack threw himself into training Marcus, a 23-year-old fresh out of tech school, eyes bright with hunger but lacking real-world wear and tear. "Listen," he said, on the first morning as they stood beneath a Ford Explorer, "books teach you how an engine works in theory. But out here, machines have their own personality. You have to learn to listen to them." "Listen?" Marcus looked at Jack as if he'd just spoken Martian. Jack nodded, laying a hand on the block. "Yes. Strange noises, unusual vibration, even the smell. Everything tells you something. My father used to say, machines don't know how to lie. They only tell the truth if you know how to hear it." For 2 weeks, Jack passed on not just skills, but a working philosophy. Respect every task, no matter how small. Treat customers like family, and never cut corners just to finish faster. This you have to remember, he said on the last day as they cleaned the shop after a shift. A reputation is built one car at a time. Every job is a chance to prove you're trustworthy. Don't waste that chance. Marcus nodded, earnest. Jack, why don't you open your own garage? With your skills, you could be the boss. Jack gave a sad smile. I thought about it, but opening a garage takes capital. When my wife got sick, every dollar went to the hospital. Sometimes life doesn't give us what we want. It gives us what we need to become better people. Friday afternoon, 5:30. The last day at Quinn's. Jack stood in the middle of the shop, taking in the space as familiar as a second home. The smell of oil, the clink of metal, the dim hum of fluorescent lights, all etched into the 3 years of his life. Mr. Quinn came out of the office holding an envelope. Here, he said, handing it to Jack. 2 weeks' final pay, plus a little bonus. Jack opened it and froze. Mr. Quinn, this amount— I know, the old man cut in. Consider it a reward for 3 years of hard work. And to buy Mia a decent pair of shoes, Jack swallowed hard. You didn't have to. I did. Quinn placed a hand on his shoulder. When I hired you 3 years ago, I didn't think you'd stay long. A man with your hands would find somewhere better sooner or later. But you stayed. Low pay, heavy work, because you're loyal. That's rare in this line of work. You gave me a job when no one else would, Jack said quietly. I'll never forget that. Quinn nodded, eyes rimmed red. Go do something big, Jack Nolan. Show them that Tom Nolan's son isn't just a great mechanic. He's a great leader. The two men shook hands, a firm, lingering grip that held everything hard to say out loud. Jack turned and walked through the shop doors one last time. The F-150 rolled out of the lot. In the rearview mirror, Mr. Quinn still stood there waving, smaller and smaller until he disappeared. Sunday, 9 p.m. at the trailer park. Jack sat by the bed, watching Mia sleep. Tomorrow morning, he would start the new job. A new life. A new future. But tonight, he was still here, in the humble trailer, beside the daughter who was his reason to keep going. Daddy? Mia's eyes cracked open, her voice drowsy. Why aren't you asleep yet? I'm worried about you, she said honestly. What if you don't like the new job? What if people aren't nice to you? Jack smiled, brushing her hair. Daddy's scared too. But what did Mom say about fear? Fear is how the heart reminds us we're doing something important, Mia murmured, repeating it. That's right. And no matter what the new place is like, every night Daddy will come home to you, still make breakfast, still be your daddy. That never changes. Mia hugged him tight. I love you so much. Daddy loves you too, Angel. When Mia was sound asleep, Jack went to the living room, opened the cabinet, and took out his father's toolbox, the thing that had been with him all 3 years at Quinn's. He lifted the lid, gazing at the old tools he had kept carefully. On the lid were engraved Thomas Tom Nolan, 1965 to 2009. Dad, Jack said softly, tomorrow I step into a new world, a world you never had a chance to experience. But I promise I'll carry the values you taught me. I won't let success change me. I'm still your son. He closed the box, resolved to bring it in the morning, not to use, but to remember where he came from. Monday, 8:30 a.m. Pierce Motors. Jack stood before the gleaming glass building, but this time not as a timid candidate. He was an official employee. In his hand was a new leather briefcase, a gift from Evelyn when she learned he didn't have one. Inside, his father's toolbox, Mia's photo, and a blank notebook to record the new journey. Dana Whitfield met him in the lobby. "Welcome to Pierce Motors, Jack." "Ready for day one?" "Ready," Jack replied, though his heart still pounded. They walked down the familiar hallway, this time turning deeper in, up to the third floor. Dana opened the door to an office, not large, but with a window overlooking the city, a warm wood desk, and a new nameplate: Jack Nolan, Director of Operations, Camden Plant. Jack froze before the plaque, his name on an office door at Pierce Motors. "You okay?" Dana asked softly. "I just need a minute," Jack admitted, eyes burning. Dana nodded and closed the door to give him a private moment. Jack stepped inside and set down his briefcase. He placed the toolbox on the shelf beside Mia's newly framed photo. He snapped a picture and sent it to his daughter. "Daddy made it to the new workplace. Daddy loves you." The reply came at once. "Yay! I'm proud of you, Daddy." A knock on the door. Evelyn stood in the doorway, gray suit, neat, a warm smile. "Good morning, Jack. How does it feel?" "Like I'm dreaming," Jack smiled. "Afraid I'll wake up any minute." Evelyn stepped in, eyes falling on the toolbox. "Your father's?" "Yes. I want to remember that even if I sit in an office, I'm still the son of a mechanic. And I'm proud of that." "That's exactly why I want you here," Evelyn said. "Today you'll meet the Camden Plant leadership team. Some will be skeptical. Why a South Philly mechanic got vaulted up. They'll test you. I'm ready. I know. And remember, you don't need to prove you're like them. You need to prove what makes you unlike them. That's your strength." 10 a.m., 5th floor conference room. Jack entered. Around the long table sat 6 people, 3 men and 3 women, all older than he was, suits sharp, eyes appraising. Patrick Hale sat at the head. "Everyone, this is Jack Nolan, the new Director of Operations for Camden Plant." "Jack, this is the senior management team." Jack sat, feeling the layer of skepticism in the air. A silver-haired man, Thomas Brennan, Chief Financial Officer, opened. "Mr. Nolan, your resume is unusual. No MBA, no senior management experience. Why do you think you're right for this role?" Jack drew a deep breath. The moment he had prepared for. "You're right," he said evenly. "I don't have an MBA. I'm not used to boardrooms like this, but I have 15 years on the factory floor, under the hood, where the real work happens. I know what a healthy engine sounds like, and which sound signals trouble. I know how workers feel when managers don't show respect. And I know an Excel file can't say half as much as an honest conversation with the person on the line." Thomas frowned. "Are you saying we don't understand the workers?" "I'm not saying that, sir." Jack kept his calm. "I'm saying I bring a different vantage point, the vantage point of someone who's been a worker. And maybe that's exactly what the Camden Plant is missing." A woman, Rachel Diaz, head of HR, tilted her head, intrigued. "Camden Plant is facing issues with productivity and morale. How will you handle that?" Jack thought of Quinn's, of the faces he'd worked beside. First step is to listen. Not in a closed room, but on the floor. Talk to workers on their break. Ask them what the real problem is. Usually, the person on the line knows exactly where the bottleneck is. No one's asked them. Rachel nodded slowly, taking notes. A younger man, David Chen, head of production, posed a question. "What if they don't respect you? What if they think you're just one of them who got lucky?" Jack smiled. "Then I'll show them I'm still one of them. I won't sit in the office all day. I'll be on the floor. I'll pick up a wrench when needed. I'll prove I haven't forgotten where I come from. Because respect doesn't come from a title. It comes from actions." The room fell silent for a few seconds. Then Patrick gave a small smile and clapped once. Exactly what I wanted to hear. The meeting ran another hour, full of tough questions, challenges, scrutiny. Jack answered each one with candor and confidence. Not the confidence of a know-it-all, but of someone ready to learn. As everyone stood, Thomas Brennan paused beside Jack. "You know, at first I thought Mrs. Pierce had lost her mind hiring you," he said bluntly. "But after hearing you, I think this might be the smartest crazy decision she's made." He offered his hand. Jack took it, a solid handshake, waited with respect. 6:45 p.m. Jack drove back to the trailer park. Dusk had fallen. He was bone-tired, but pride swelled inside him. Mia burst out as soon as the door opened. "Daddy! How was it? Tell me everything." Jack hugged her, laughing. "Wonderful, sweetheart. Hard, a little scary, but wonderful." "I knew it," Mia beamed. "I knew you could do it." Dinner was simple. Spaghetti with meat sauce. Mia shared stories from school. Jack talked about the new office, the new people. When Mia went to bed, Jack sat at the kitchen table and opened the blank notebook. On the first page, he wrote, "Day 1 at Pierce Motors. Today, I stepped into a new world. But I didn't come empty-handed. I brought my father's lessons, Sarah's love, and Mia's hope. And I promise I will never forget who I am, no matter who I become." He closed the notebook and looked out into the dark window. A new journey had just begun. Thus Jack's journey pauses at this milestone. Leaving Quinn's, placing his father's toolbox on the shelf of his new office, and writing the first line of another life. A single father, a promise to his daughter, and an opportunity that could change the future. But this is only the beginning. In Episode 2, Jack will step into the real grounds of the Camden plant, where machines roar endlessly, but human hearts have long fallen silent. There, he will have to confront the skepticism of old management and the exhaustion of 532 workers. Choose between beautiful numbers and the ugly truth on the factory floor. And in an unexpected late night, when the main assembly line grinds to a halt, make a decision that could burn away the fragile opportunity just sparked. Which side will Evelyn take when the board begins tightening budgets? What move will Thomas Brennan strike next? And Jack's promise to Mia, "No matter what, every night Daddy will come home to you." Will it be tested? If you're curious what Jack will do when forced to trade one thing for another, don't miss Episode 2. If this story touched something inside you, hit like so the algorithm knows you want to see Jack again. Hit subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss Episode 2 the moment it drops. Leave a comment. In your opinion, what will be Jack's toughest challenge at Camden? Machines, people, or his own fear? See you in Episode 2. Camden, where numbers don't lie, but only people can tell the truth.